Hello and welcome to another video. So if you watched my last video, I said we'd be covering a Summit Tenko deck next video. Of course, this has been covered in the past on this channel, but was a great deck and still performing exceptionally well in the current meta, so no real issues with it overall. It is very legendary heavy. It's something to keep in mind with a lot of Haven decks lately outside of Lion, as that's probably the only real cheap one. But it's not too bad. It's not as bad as some of the really heavy legendary decks. There are some that are just absolutely packed to the brim with legendaries, but this one definitely falls in that high cost bracket, but will perform pretty well. I found that between this and Mysteria Rune, that's where I'm having the most fun with Shadowverse as far as rotation goes. Unlimited, whole different story. You can have fun with a lot of different decks there, at least currently. And with the expansion pretty much around the corner at this point, I was just revisiting a few of these decks. We've also got a Puppet Portal list that we covered in Brigade of the Sky in the past, so I did a little slight revamp to it, just changing out one card in particular. And then we're probably going to try and cover some of the World Grand Prix decks in the next few videos after that, just before the expansion, so you guys can enjoy it. But we're going to get right into this and check it out. So our first match against Rune happened to be against one of the Rev members. That was actually pretty cool. I haven't fought most of them, so I don't know them very personally, but I know of them, so I thought it was interesting. Plus, I mean, it went pretty well. Rune can be a very iffy matchup because that whole big turn 10 swing can be a real issue, and this deck is on the slower side, but I found that it's about a 50-50. It's very luck dependent for our opponent, so that's usually how things go. Starting off with our Moriekrim, it's always a good way to get things off the ground if your opponent doesn't play a turn 1 and you are going first. Usually will give you a fairly decent advantage. In turn 2, not really much else to do, so we just go on a more aggressive path, trying to get something set up. Sometimes you're better off setting up early. In this case, it worked out reasonably well. Mostly I'm using the Moriekrims as draw power and to just put pressure down. Stops our opponent from being able to really play anything too crazy, although Rune doesn't take big advantage of them anyway most of the time, so it's not really a big issue. Since we did just see Seraphic Blade, it looks like Tenko Shrine is going to definitely be the play. Even if we can just draw out one of those, the odds of them having another one decrease pretty drastically, so definitely worth it. And we're going to be able to wipe this fairly quickly. I did make the small mistake of not playing the globes first here. I definitely should have played my 2 globe of stairways and then played down the 4/4, as it would have procced them all and we would have been able to activate them next turn instead. I'm looking at some very good insight plays, but not a lot of Mysterio cards that we've seen so far. I mean, they've had an okay number, but it's definitely not a lot. Just going to be a pretty easy cleanup. And then the next turn we're going to get the draws. So I can pretty much accept that at this point. Or getting a few pings in. So this is where things get a little more tricky as Light Mage and of course Grey come down. It's definitely going to block us out a little bit. Especially the grey spells, they're quite powerful. Especially with Black Room, that's going to be buffing all those spells that are going to be in the hand there. Themis Purge is not a bad move, but not the one I want to make right now. We can actually just clear this with Salvation and still get a 2 damage ping to the face at the end of the turn. And that way I can hold on to the Decree for when they potentially go for a wide Ann turn. Since we haven't seen Ann yet, this is where this match actually can start to go our way. But it does still require us to buy a little time. So Unicorn Spear is a good way to do it. And we'll just throw down another Temple. Just for that extra healing, and it'll also proc the extra. Now we have the Summit and of course the Heavenly. That's going to be working wonders for us. That's probably going to be our win condition for the most part. Provided they can deal with this, of course, which shouldn't be too hard since they did play that Wind Blast. And another light mage. Looks like they had a reasonable hand. It looks like Anne might have been just one of the cards they were missing or couldn't get quite low enough. If they had, we would have been in some serious trouble, but it kind of went our way, which is always a good thing. And that'll get rid of it. And decide to favour the temple there. Keeping ourselves at 20, out of range of a potential just Anne sorcery play, in case they do have a 0-cost Anne. It looks like it was definitely the right move. But they are going to draw this games out with this Judication. So we do need to deal with this as effectively as we can. Fortunately, Lighthind is going to do a pretty good job of cleaning this up and allowing us to ping for 6 damage. So we're looking at a very, very good turn. And from here, it shouldn't be too hard for us to take the game. Really, the only worry would be an Anne, and so far we still haven't seen one. But I'm starting to feel like they definitely have at least one in hand at this point. So our Heavenly Knight Summit into the Priest is going to give us lethal pretty easily, which is a little bit of luck. I mean, if we had to win to the next turn, I think Anne would have been a threat, but I think at this point, we take what we can get and we roll them for 7 damage to the face. Definitely, I was on edge about those Anne plays. If they had have come down at any point, we definitely would have been in a lot more trouble, so very glad that the RNG was on my side. Now, following on from that, we are up against a Bloodcraft, another deck that can be a little iffy depending on how good they are. The advantage we have is healing, which Blood doesn't cope with very well. If you can keep healing up, it really can negate a lot of the damage that your opponent will deal to you, of course. So Blood really doesn't like that. They want every damage they can get because every point of damage that Bloodcraft can score to your face is a big advantage for them. So we're going to be able to go Globus Stairway, decent turn 1 opener since we are going first. And Blood typically not having a 1-drop is always a good sign. So I decided to go for the double Summit play. I felt like Blood probably wasn't running away to remove Summit Temple. And Alexandrite Demon, looking good. For any of you who are interested, I do plan to have a massive pack opening just before Christmas, I think, based on when the 50 pack event ends. So once we have all those packs together, every pack that I've saved over the last 10 days or so, because I haven't opened any, we're going to open, excluding the Legendary pack, which will actually open with the set, the next set, the Ultra Sphere. We're actually going to open it with that because we can actually get the legendaries from Ultra Sphere out of it, and that's really what I'm after. So we're going to have quite a large pack opening come Christmas Eve, or at least Christmas Eve probably for me is when I'll post the video. Since the event will probably end a couple days earlier, so it'll give me time to get the video done and out to you guys. So this went fairly well for them. They set up a nice board, which is not very easy to deal with. We've kind of just got to make do with whatever we can get and give them the healing. But now we have a constant source of healing in our Gem Princess's effect, so not much they can do against that now. Since there are no counters to leader effects, which is something I expect us to see eventually. If leader effects keep coming out, even in the slow way they have been, I could definitely see a counter needing to come out where it's just like wipe all leader effects or something. So, being able to go face for 7, since we have got a pretty nice setup as far as board goes, and forcing the 7/7 before they can play Dark Beast Bat does require them to trade with this. Fortunately for them though, they have the Florus again, which is a really, really good way to deal with that card there. But we end up back-to-back Heavenly Knights, so why not? This time, probably throwing the Evo on it, going for that 9 damage, leaving them at just 5 health. And the Dark Beast Bat I don't think is going to be at 14 damage, honestly, so even if they had one, it really wasn't going to be the end of the world for us. And Vera can't kill the 9/9, but this Razor Claw and an Evil Eye Demon And a bat is going to. Wow. It did cost a little bit of resources, but they didn't take any damage due to the Vera effect, so definitely the right way to play around that card there. Fortunately, I don't really have a play outside of just purging this, which is a little disappointing. It does open us up to a potentially Dark Feast Bat, which they did decide to play. Definitely not the thing I want to see, but it is only at 9 damage, which means unless they can immediately follow up with a second Dark Feast Bat, we might actually survive this. So the only chance we've got is that they don't have a second one, because we can't actually heal out of range of this. Like, we have to remove it. So we've basically had to make this line of play. We also probably could have thrown up the ward, but wouldn't have got us the healing. So the hope is that they don't draw another one, which doesn't look like they did. They went with Omen of Lust, so Dark Feast Bat is now not possible to play. Last I checked, it was at 9, now probably 10. So we do need to heal up a fair bit more to get out of range. Which doesn't look like we're going to quite make it. We'll still be just in range of a potential second Dark Feast Bat. But our opponent is also not in a good spot. So Blood Pact, that's good, they're forcing it. They're definitely digging. And Vera, that's going to be game. Themis Purge plus 2 heals is going to be 4 damage. Even without the Purge, I think we still probably would have had a fairly decent go. But that just really was the icing on the cake there. Finishing off that game. So this deck has got me out of a lot of tight spots when it comes to Grand Prix and things like that. It's definitely been one that I've enjoyed playing a lot, and I'm sure you guys have noticed. Haven is one of my top 3 crafts if you are new to the channel, and it's personally one I enjoy the most. So between Haven, Blood, and right now Rune, I think I like a bit more than Portal, but typically I do enjoy Portal decks, more specifically artifacts, but that's just not that strong anymore, so I've kind of cut back on playing that and opted for more Rune play. But this deck, doing wonders. Nothing really wrong with it other than it being high cost, so if you guys have got the cards, definitely recommend giving it a go. Otherwise, definitely wait till the next expansion, because things will get a shake up and a change, and I'm sure we'll see a whole new meta evolve from that, as we normally do with an expansion. So till next time, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and you'll find the deck list in the description below.